This next assignment is called Drawing the Brown Paper Bag. This assignment is challenging because we're working with a medium ground already, this brown piece of paper, which is like this brown craft paper. You'll need a brown lunch bag, a plain lunch bag with no designs on it, as your model, and you need a white tablecloth or white piece of paper to tape your paper bag model onto. The paper bag will serve as a model for you to draw. So I'm going to create my model. I open up the brown lunch bag like so, my hand in there, and then I'm going to crinkle it like so to give it really deep folds, deep interesting folds. And then I'm going to put some tape, little rolls of tape on the bottom to keep it anchored and so it doesn't fall over on my tablecloth, or white piece of paper covering my table or surface, drawing surface. And kind of like this view, so I'm going to put that in front of me. Make sure that you don't straighten out your bag, or you're going to lose your deep crinkles. You want it to look very three-dimensional, the wrinkles. You don't want to open it up too much, or the wrinkles will become too flat again. Or you don't want to overly crinkle again and again the bag, or you'll have so many wrinkles that you won't be able to draw it because it'll be very difficult. You'll have too many minute wrinkles. So just don't overdo the crinkling. What you want to do is get big, deep folds. Those are the best. So this is the brown paper bag I'm going to draw. The materials that we need is white Conte crayon. This is Conte crayon in pencil form that I found, but usually the Conte crayon comes in a little stick like this, which is about a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch in thickness. We're going to use white, brown, and black. Those are the 3 colors that we are going to use. Conte crayon comes in other brown shades, but I don't want you to use them. So white, brown, and black for now. You're going to need a kneaded eraser and a regular white plastic eraser. Drafting brush to wipe away the erasure so you don't smear your Conte crayon. Conte crayon is a little bit more compressed, and it's a little harder than charcoal, but it is still kind of a powdery, dry medium, but it's not as messy as charcoal. And if you do have them, you'll find the little blending stumps to also be useful. So those are the materials you need. The brown paper bag drawing is very, very challenging. It is an observation from drawing assignment. Draw from observation to really look at something and to see all the subtle shades and differences in value section of this paper bag. Transitions. So it's a very challenging assignment. An area could go from light to dark in the next assignment, which is within a small section of this paper bag. So it's a very challenging assignment. Paper behaves in its own specific way. This particular brown paper kind of holds a nice crisp fold, so there's going to be a lot of contrast, lots of dark areas next to light areas. The brown of the paper is going to represent your light middle tones. Your dark middle tones will be areas where you'll add a little bit of the brown Conte crayon, and then where it goes even darker, or with the cast shadow on the bottom of the bag, we're going to use a little bit of this black Conte crayon. But the first thing I do is start out with a contour line drawing. So students start with a contour line drawing of just the very outside edge of the bag. And after you do that, we'll get to that. But first, we're going to do a contour line drawing, maybe an inch or 2 down from the top of the paper. This piece of brown paper is just 9 by 12, very similar to regular sketchbook page size. Draw very, very loose and sketchy. because what you want to do is just get the general shape of the bag. You also want to get the correct size or the scale you want to draw in. And if you change your mind, you don't like what you've drawn, or you've drawn so big that the bag doesn't all fit on the paper, or you have not added enough room for the shadow, then erasing won't be such a big deal if you drew very, very light and sketchy. So don't try to be overly perfect. Don't make your good lines right from the beginning. Draw very, very broadly, generally, too tight and specific later on, but don't try to make really, really a neat, precise drawing right from the beginning. I'm also drawing in what I would consider major changes in plane, where there's big wrinkles and change in angles, where the one plane just changes angle to another plane, and I'm drawing that in too, because that's what a contour line drawing includes. The outside edge, as well as major changes in planes on the inside of the form. So the right side of the paper bag looks kind of circular, almost like a big pouch. There's kind of a dent right here. Okay, so I have the general outline for the bag. I think I'd like to keep it. There isn't any kind of major issues with the size. It's the size that I want. It's located on the paper in the area that I want. So I'm not going to make any changes at this point. I like where this is. There's some really cool kind of shadows, and I will draw that in later. But for now, what I'm going to do is go in with the white, and I really wish I had a big square stick in this case, but I only have this little pencil, Conte pencil, but I'm going to put in my lights. And sometimes the top of the lunch bag is perforated, so I might want to include that little detail. But when I talk about my lights, that's areas of the bag that kind of glow and that have a lot of highlighting. And if you have a hard time seeing those areas, sometimes the best advice I can give you is squint your eyes. If you squint your eyes, lighter areas will jump out at you, darker areas will kind of recede. And doing something as simple as that can help you to see the highlights. Don't overdo it with the highlights. You want to use the color of the paper to represent your midtones. Okay, so here's another light area here, but it's not that light. There's a darker area right here. It's like a little triangle. You're going to see lots of trapezoids and triangular shapes. When paper wrinkles and crinkles like that, those shapes become, those kinds of shapes form. I also want to use my little blender to soften up my highlights in certain places. You don't have to do that, but where the highlighting is very subtle, you might want to do that and kind of blend it in with the brown of the paper. Over here, the perforated edge of the bag is very, very obvious here. I found that the best brown paper bag drawings are the ones that don't have as much white and that don't have as much a strong black. Most of my students just waste a lot of Conte, smearing all that brown Conte all over. But you really have to think about the placement of your highlights and shadows. Also, you can see that maybe I went a little too light. I'm actually erasing up an area of midtone back again. And then right next to it is an area of light, little area of light, just so that we don't lose the edge or that the surface of the bag, so that it doesn't kind of become like the part of the background. Okay, like that. I'm trying to be very, very specific and draw the highlights and shadows that I really see. I'm not making anything up. I'm not just like kind of picking shapes and then repeating them all over again, all over the place. I'm being very specific. I see certain shapes in certain locations, and I will draw those exact shapes in those locations. So, like I said, draw what you see in class. Tell my students, draw what you see. Don't draw what you don't see. So